All right, we are here. We're going to make a quick program. This is called the Lib Program. And when you create your program, what you want to do is make sure you add a title to your program. That way it's a lot easier to find once you've created it. The best way to do that is just name it exactly what it's called. Sometimes it's a good idea to put your last name, for example, like this, with an underscore next to the name of your program. That way it's just easier if you're turning this in, your teacher will know who it's coming from, but just make sure you label your program. Okay, so for this one, there's a couple of key concepts that we're going to look at. The first one is creating variables or assigning variables. The second one is we're going to look at the string data type. And then finally, we're going to look at this idea called concatenation, which we'll get into in a little bit. So let's go ahead and get started. And before we start making the program, let's take a look at what this program should actually look like. So here's what the program should look like. So if you don't know what a madlib is, I will show you what that is in just a second. So your program is going to ask for a couple different inputs. You'll see that those inputs are these names right here. So you got username, we have a place, a food, and a color. So the program is going to ask for some input. It says, what's your name? I'll say Mr. G, hit enter. It'll say, what's your favorite place? I'm just going to say Denver. What's your favorite food? We'll say pizza. What's your favorite color? I will say blue. When I hit enter, you'll see that the program has taken those words, it's put it together into a sentence that is sort of funny, doesn't really make sense, but it puts all those things together, and that is essentially what a madlib is. So we are going to make this program now. So when making the program, the first thing I'm going to do is come over to events and grab a when flag is clicked block. This is just the block or the line of code that's going to start my program. So you'll see when the green flag is clicked, if I click that flag, my program will start once I have some code over here. The next thing I want to do is I want to create some variables because I'm going to be asking the user to input a couple different words. And if I'm not saving those words somewhere, they're going to get overwritten. So I need a couple variables. So I go down to the variable category here. I click on make variable. And the first one I'm going to make is called name. And again, this isn't exactly like math class. We want to name our variables exactly what they are. Don't use letters like X or Y. That can get a little confusing. So we're going to say name. I'm going to say place. We need a food. And we need a color. Okay. And you'll also see that you can see the variables over here. And just a reminder, a variable is basically a placeholder that I can save data to keep it and then use it later on in my program. So you can think of it a little bit like a box where I'm storing information in. So this box is the name box, and I'm going to put different names inside of that box, or I'm going to assign different values to that variable. Okay, so then I'm going to go to sensing. And I'm going to sensing because I want to take an input from the user. And so I'm taking a name from the user. And so I'm going to ask, what's your name? And you'll notice that this ask block has an answer bubble that goes with it. And if I click this little checkbox next to the answer block, or the answer bubble, you'll see that it also highlights here. So when I hit the green flag, it's going to ask me for my name. I'll say Mr. G. And you'll see that it's saved here, but it hasn't gone into the name variable yet. So that's what we're going to do now. So I'm going to go back to variables. I'm going to grab a set block, and I'm going to change the drop down to name. And I'm going to put the answer bubble inside of name. Okay, so let's just test that really quickly. Okay, what's your name? Mr. G. You'll notice that both of these are now set, so that is working. Now to speed this process up, I'm going to come up to the highest most part of the blocks of code that I want to copy. So I want to copy both of these, or I want to duplicate these rather, these two blocks. So I'm going to go to the top block and two-finger tap on it and say duplicate and drop that there. The next thing I want to ask is, what's your favorite place? And I'm going to change my variable to place. Then I'm going to two-finger tap again, drop it here. What's your favorite food. And I'll change food right there. And then I'm going to do this one more time for color. What is your favorite color? And I'll change color here. And I also forgot to mention, if I'm going too fast, just pause the video and catch up and then hit play again. So I'll give you a second to make your screen look like my screen. So pause this video, and then when you're done, go and hit play again. Okay, so let's just check that this code is working. So I'm going to hit run, or I'm going to hit the green flag rather. I'll type in Mr. G. You'll see that the name gets updated. Favorite place is Denver. What's your favorite food? Say pizza. And favorite color, we'll say blue. All of my variables are updated. You'll also notice that the answer variable keeps getting overwritten, and that's why we need to save this information to variables. Otherwise, that information will get overwritten each time we enter something new. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the sample run, or the example program that's going to show you kind of what this one's supposed to look like. Hit the green flag. I'm just going to test it again to see what the program is supposed to say. So I'll type in Denver, type in pizza again, and we'll type blue. So it should say Mr. G is traveling to Denver to try the blue pizza. Okay, so here's how we put this whole program together. So what I'm going to do is go up to looks, the looks category on the left, and you can think of looks sort of like the output of the program. So the input is the ask block. That's allowing the user to enter a value of some sort or some data. And then the looks blocks are going to be your output. So I'm going to grab a say block and drop it at the bottom. Now you'll notice that this has just one section that I can type into. And if you remember from the way that this program is supposed to work, I need to use all of these variables to output a sentence using all that data that the user input. So I'm not going to be able to just type that into one slot here. So if I hit run, I can show you what this looks like. Say Mr. G, Denver, pizza, and blue. And you'll notice it just says hello because that's the only thing that's inside of the say block. So what we want to do is go over to operators, and operators are our math functions. They're also our Boolean operators, which we'll talk about later. But the block I want to grab here is called the join block. And you can also think of the join block as the concatenate block. Concatenate. And what this block does is it takes strings and it puts them together. So you might be wondering what a string is. And a string is a data type of characters. And the characters can be anything from letters, uppercase and lowercase, to numbers, to symbols like question marks, and even to spaces. However, if you do have numbers that are inside of a string, they're no longer numbers. They're considered characters. So for example, if I put the number 1 here and I put the number 7 here, and I click this block, you'll see that they actually just get stuck together because these are not numbers when they're inside of the join block. They're characters. And so if you're sticking characters together, they just get stuck together. They don't get added together. For that, I would actually need to use the addition block. And then if I use the addition block, it would actually add the numbers together rather than just sticking them together. So concatenate is taking strings and it's putting them together or merging them together. And strings are just a data type that is made up of characters. So let's go ahead and use this join block. Now for this, I'm actually going to need a few join blocks. And I'll show you why in a second. Let's see. Move that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is grab another join block. I'm going to put it inside of the second bubble inside of the first join block, and then I'm just going to duplicate this. Remember, 2-finger tap on the block you want to duplicate. I just want to add a couple of these in here, like that. Okay, so if you remember from our sample run, or the program that shows you the correct output, the first thing that's going to show is the name of the user. So I'm going to go over to variables, and you'll notice these are my variable bubbles. So I'm going to grab a name bubble, and I'm going to drop it in the first slots in the join block. And this, the program says the name, so the name, and what I'm going to do here in this join block, or in this space right here, I'm going to put an actual space. And you can see that when I zoom in, you can see that I have a space here. Okay, I need that space. So I'm going to say name space is traveling to, and I'm going to put a space after the O. So there's a space here, and there's a space right here. So name is traveling to, and I'm going to grab the place variable, and I'm going to drop it there. So name is traveling to place, and again, I'm going to put a space to try the space. And for this one, I'm going to grab my color to try the color. And I also need a space in this bubble here. So I'm going to put a space right there. So name is traveling to place to try the color space. And then I'm going to grab the food, but I actually want to put a period at the end of this. In order to do that, I just need to grab one more join block and drop it there. So name is traveling to place to try the color space food, period. All right, let's zoom that out. And let's go ahead and test our code, see how that works. Let's see. Oh, also, if you want to shrink your output window, you can just click these two buttons here. So let's test this out. Let's try it with something different just to make sure that it works. Switch your name. I'll just say Joey is going to New York City. And we'll say pasta is their favorite food, and we'll say green is their favorite color. So it says Joey is traveling to New York City to try the green pasta. And that looks like it works. So just to recap real quick, in this program, we looked at assigning variables in Scratch. We also looked at the string data type briefly, which is just a list of characters. They could be letters, spaces, symbols, numbers. And we also looked at the concept of concatenation. And basically, this whole green block right here, this big block of code, is concatenation, where we're taking those strings and we're sticking them together to create a longer string. All right, if you made this program and you do want to turn it in or you want to share it, make sure you come up here to the orange button, you click share, it'll take you to the share page. Come down here on the bottom right, you will see the button that says copy link. Once you click that, you will get a link to your code. Make sure you click the copy link button right there. Once you've done that, you have got the link to your code, and you can do whatever you want with that link. You can share it or you can turn it in. And if you're in my class, you want to turn that in to Schoology. All right, we'll see you next time.